Oh yeah.
Intro sequence.
Hi guys! Pokemon is one of my favorite games of all time, and with the introduction of Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, I thought it'd be a great time to talk about the history of the core games as a whole. It's February 27, 1996. Pokemon Aka and Midori versions are released in Japan, which is Japanese for red and green respectively. After this, Pokemon Hour version is released, which is Japanese for blue. This is the version that's remastered and released for Western audiences and in North America and beyond. After this, in 1998, Pokemon Yellow's Special Pikachu version is released, which is a further reworked version of the red and blue games. This game has the added quirk of allowing your little Pikachu to walk around behind you on the screen. This and some other things mean that the game draws its influence from the anime rather than from the original games. The Kanto region has 151 Pokemon in its Pokedex, starting with Bulbasaur and ending with Mewtwo. This Pokedex doesn't particularly have a cohesive theme, it just seems to be interesting animals and influences from some Japanese folklore that the animators decided would be cool to put in as their Pokemon. 1999 brings about the second generation of Pokemon, with Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Silver. Pokemon Crystal is a remastered version that's released later that year in Japan and in 2000 in North America. This generation adds an additional 100 Pokemon to the original 151 from Kanto, meaning that Johto's Pokedex has 251 Pokemon to discover. This generation seems to have a slightly more cohesive theme, especially when compared to Kanto. It tends to deal with the clash between old and new, between tradition and modernity. Pokemon such as Chimicho and Ho-Oh have their roots directly in Japanese folklore, whereas Pokemon such as Mareep have their roots in electronics and new technological devices. This is also a generation where we have Trio Masters for the first time. Lugia is brought in as the Trio Master for the legendary birds of the first generation, Zapdos, Articuno and Moltres, whereas Ho-Oh is brought in as the legendary Trio Master for the beasts, Entei, Raikou and Suicune. 2002 is the greatest year in Pokemon history because it brings about third generation. Hoenn region brings with it Pokemon Ruby and Pokemon Sapphire, and in 2004 we have Pokemon Emerald. These games bring out 135 extra Pokemon to their Pokedex, and this Pokedex has a really cohesive and wonderful theme. It's based around space, discovery, and the idea that knowing what we don't know might not necessarily be a really bad thing. Pokemon such as Jirachi, Deoxys, Lunatone, and Solrock all take their influences from items in space, suns and moons, stardust, and aliens. This also comes out really strongly in the plot of the games and in the post-game, especially in Emerald. These regions are also the first ones to have a focus around discovery and not necessarily collectivism. This is the first games where you can't necessarily capture all of the Pokemon in the Pokedex. In fact, in Emerald, only about 1/3 to 1/4 of the Pokemon are actually physically capturable in the game. The rest you have to breed, evolve, capture, and trade to discover, and some you might not even be able to catch anyway. However, it is still possible to catch them all because I've done it. In 2004, we also have Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Leaf Green, which are our first remakes. Interestingly, we have another remake of first generation coming out very soon with Pokemon Go Eevee and Pokemon Go Pikachu, which I am very, very excited for. 2006 brings with it Generation 4, the Sinnoh region. We have Pokemon Pearl and Pokemon Diamond, which are the first Pokemon games to be represented on the Nintendo DS. In 2008, we have the sequel, remastered Pokemon Platinum. These games add 107 new Pokemon to their Pokedex, which has a really interesting cohesive theme, revolving around creation and divinity, with myth and mythos forming and informing the culture of the games. This comes out really strongly in the plotline of these two games as well. We have Pokemon like Arceus, the literal Pokemon god, who exists before time and space. He brings these ideas into reality, both in a physical and metaphysical form, in the form of the two mascots of the games, Dialga and Palkia. We also have a chaotic hell demon Pokemon, Bent on Destruction, who drags the protagonist into a freaky upside-down alternate reality. For reference, the legendaries of the originals in the Kanto region are cool birds with interesting elements. In 2009, we also have Heart Gold and Soul Silver come out, which are remakes of the original Gold and Silver games. These are released in 2010 in North America. These games are very interesting because they take elements from Pokemon Yellow Special Pikachu Edition, but instead of only allowing your Pikachu to walk around behind you, in fact any Pokemon that's in the first slot behind you walks around behind you in the games. 2010 brings with it Generation 5, the Unova region, with Pokemon Black and Pokemon White. These New York City-inspired settings are the first not to take their inspiration from a geographical location in Japan. They add 156 extra Pokemon to their Pokedex, starting with Victini and ending with Genesect. This is the first region not to start off their Pokedex with the grass starter of the region. They take their theme from ideals of purity, diversity, and growth, and the pursuit of perfection. This is one of the most diverse and interesting casts of different Pokemon in a region, and is by far the most hated upon. Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 are released in 2012, and these are the first instances of in-generation sequels. The events of Black 2 and White 2 take place directly after the events of Black and White, and using connectivity features, the choices that a player made in Black and White can affect how the game plays in Black and White 2. In 2013, in October, we have Pokemon X and Y, based in the French-inspired Kalos region. This 6th generation game has only 72 Pokemon given to its new Pokedex, the least that we have before or since. However, this doesn't stop it from having a really cohesive theme, based around ideals of selfishness, beauty, and the pursuit of perfection. It's also relevant that this is the generation that brings out Fairy type, a pretty but powerful type that comes out as the natural enemy of Dragon type. It also brings out the new Fairy evolution Sylveon, the best Pokemon in the game. The ideals of beauty and perfection also come out in the gameplay, with an 8-directional grid coming out for the first time, as well as the rollerblades mechanic, which adds fluidity and realism to the game. We also have the remakes of Generation 3, Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Alpha Sapphire, which come out in the first instance of a worldwide simultaneous release in 2014. In 2016, we have Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon, based in the sunny Hawaiian-inspired region of Alola. These add 81 new Pokemon to the Pokedex, totaling 802, starting with Rowlet and ending with Marshadow. These Pokemon have a really interesting cohesive theme to their Pokedex, surrounding native title, environmental protectionism, and the importance of tradition and culture. This is especially important as we consider that the legendaries of the region are not called legendaries, but rather guardians over the land, with names inspired by native Hawaiian languages. Later, in 2017, November, we get the sequels, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Pokemon Ultra Moon. These, like the sequels Black 2 and White 2, start their events after the events of the original games. These, however, add an additional 5 Pokemon to their Pokedex, totaling 807, and meaning that the very last Pokemon in our known Pokedex is Zeraora. So that's the history of the series as a whole. With Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu coming out, as well as a core game announced for 2019, I'm excited to see where the series goes next.